Are you ready for today? Mia asked, her voice laced with excitement as she adjusted the flower crown perched atop her head. The sun poured through the large windows of the banquet hall, casting a warm glow over the pastel decorations that adorned the space. I've never been more ready, I replied, straightening the ruffled hem of my maternity dress. I can't believe my baby shower is finally here. Just then, the door swung open, and my sister, Lila, strutted in, her heels clicking loudly against the polished floor. She wore a smile that felt oddly forced, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders like a storm cloud. Wow, this place looks adorable, she said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Thanks, Lila, I'm so excited to celebrate with everyone, I said, trying to ignore the tension that seemed to crackle in the air. Yeah, I guess, she shrugged, her eyes darting around the room. Let's hope it goes smoothly. Why wouldn't it? I asked, arching an eyebrow at her. Oh, I don't know. Maybe because you've been hogging the spotlight ever since you got pregnant, she shot back, folding her arms across her chest. It's not all about you, you know. Lila, come on, it's just one day, I said, attempting to keep my voice calm. I thought we were excited to celebrate together. Excited? Sure, but let's not pretend you're not basking in all this attention, she retorted, her tone icy. Before I could respond, the door swung open again, and our mother, Karen, rushed in, carrying a stack of gifts. Girls, you won't believe the turnout. Everyone is here, she beamed, oblivious to the tension brewing between Lila and me. That's great, Mom, I said, forcing a smile. Let's get the game started. Just then, the room filled with laughter as friends began to gather, their cheerful chatter drowning out the undercurrents of discontent. I turned to Lila, hoping for a moment of truce. Can we just have fun today? Fine, she huffed, but the annoyance in her eyes told me the truce would be short-lived. The games commenced, and laughter filled the room as we played the Guess the Baby Food challenge. I found solace in the laughter, momentarily forgetting Lila's resentment, but every now and then, I caught her glaring at me, her arms crossed, as if she were waiting for the perfect moment to strike. After the games, it was time for cake. As the server brought out the beautifully decorated cake, Lila leaned closer to me, her voice barely above a whisper. You know, not everyone thinks you'll be a good mother. I raised my eyebrows in disbelief. Seriously? Who says that? Oh, just people who know how self-centered you can be, she replied, her eyes narrowing. It's not too late to ruin your little party, you know. Lila, please, I said, my heart racing. Just let it go. Today is about celebrating my baby, not tearing each other down. Maybe you should consider the possibility that I'm right, she smirked, taking a step back as the server set the cake in front of us. This isn't over. As I cut the first slice, my mind raced with thoughts of Lila's venomous words. Let's make a toast, I called, attempting to bring the mood back up. To new beginnings. Everyone raised their glasses, cheers filling the air, but the weight of Lila's jealousy loomed over me like a dark cloud. I couldn't shake the feeling that she had something sinister planned. Just then, a familiar face walked through the door, my best friend, Sarah, waving enthusiastically. I'm here. Sorry I'm late, she exclaimed, rushing toward me. I brought the gifts. Thank you, Sarah. I hugged her tightly. You always know how to brighten my day. Lila rolled her eyes as Sarah began handing out presents, her smile wide and genuine. Maybe you should consider not stealing the spotlight for once, she whispered under her breath, though I caught every word. What's your problem? Sarah snapped back, her brow furrowed. This is not about you, Lila. It's about celebrating your sister. Don't you think it's time for a little truth? Lila retorted, her voice rising, drawing the attention of everyone in the room. Maybe it's time to reveal who the real father is. I felt my heart stop. What are you talking about? I demanded, a chill creeping down my spine. Oh, I just think everyone deserves to know about the paternity test, she declared, crossing her arms smugly. Don't you think? Paternity test? Sarah echoed, her eyes wide with shock. Lila, stop. This isn't the time or place, I pleaded, my voice shaking. Lila smirked, enjoying the attention. Well, maybe it's time to spill the beans. You see, there's been a little mix-up. I might have gotten my hands on some test results. The room fell silent, and every pair of eyes turned toward me. What are you talking about? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Just think about it, everyone. Does anyone really know who the father is? She asked, her eyes glinting with malice. Maybe we should read the results aloud. Before I could respond, my husband, Jake, stepped forward, a look of anger in his eyes. Lila, this isn't funny. You need to stop. Why? Afraid of the truth? She shot back, her voice dripping with disdain. In that moment, the door opened again, and Jake's brother, Tom, strode in, his expression unreadable. He surveyed the scene, and for a brief moment, I saw a flicker of confusion on his face. Is everything okay? Tom asked, glancing from Lila to me. Just a little family drama, Lila said, a smirk still plastered on her face. Maybe you should think twice about your next words, Lila, Jake warned, stepping closer to her. You're crossing a line. Am I? Because it seems like I'm just bringing some much-needed clarity, she replied, her voice sharp. Suddenly, Tom spoke up, his tone serious. Lila, you need to leave. Now. What? She exclaimed, her expression shifting to disbelief. You can't be serious. I'm dead serious. You're ruining this day for everyone, he said firmly, crossing his arms. It's embarrassing. Just then, Jake turned to Lila, his face pale with anger. What's wrong with you? Are you really going to try and ruin this for your sister? For no reason? Maybe I'm just tired of living in her shadow, Lila shot back, her voice rising. Maybe I'm tired of pretending everything is fine when it's not. What's not fine? I asked, my heart racing. You're the one who's creating drama. Before Lila could respond, Tom stepped forward, pulling out an envelope from his jacket. Lila, you need to sit down. I've got something you need to see. Don't you dare, she yelled, her eyes wide with panic. But Tom opened the envelope anyway, and I could see the words, divorce papers, printed clearly on the front. The room fell silent again, everyone stunned into disbelief. Tom, what are you doing? Lila's voice wavered, a mix of fear and anger. I'm serving you these, Lila. I can't do this anymore, he said, his voice steady. I've had enough of your toxicity. As the words hung in the air, Lila's face turned an alarming shade of crimson. You're kidding, right? She spat, her tone incredulous. You can't be serious. I am. You've crossed too many lines, and I won't stand by and let you hurt my family anymore, he replied, holding the papers out toward her. No, you can't do this. Not here. Not now, she screamed, her voice echoing in the hall. But Tom remained resolute, the papers still extended toward her. It's done, Lila. I can't keep pretending. You've ruined enough moments in my life. I won't let you ruin this one too. I watched as Lila's composure shattered, the mask of bitterness falling away to reveal a deeper hurt. You're making a mistake, she whispered, tears pooling in her eyes. You'll regret this. But Tom shook his head. No, I won't. I'm choosing my happiness, and you should too. As the atmosphere shifted, a wave of relief washed over me. Today had been meant for celebration, not sabotage, and I was finally free from the burden of Lila's jealousy. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight lift from my shoulders, knowing that I could finally enjoy my baby shower without fear of Lila's bitterness overshadowing everything. But Lila wasn't done yet, her voice, now softer but still laced with venom, echoed across the room. This isn't over. You'll see. Lila, just leave, I said, my voice steady as I tried to maintain control of the situation. The room was tense, the air thick with unspoken words and disbelief. Guests exchanged glances, unsure of how to react to the sudden turn of events. Lila stood frozen, staring at Tom, who held the divorce papers like a shield against her wrath. You think you can just walk away from me? After everything? She said, her voice trembling. After everything you've put us through? Yes, I can, Tom replied, his tone unwavering. I deserve better than this. He took a step back, his eyes pleading with her to see reason. Lila shook her head, a mixture of anger and desperation washing over her face. This isn't fair. You're just going to leave me like this, in front of everyone? She turned to the guests, her voice rising again. Look at him. He's choosing her over me. Lila, this isn't about you, I said, my patience wearing thin. This is my baby shower, a day meant for joy, not for airing out personal grievances. She shot me a venomous glare. Oh, is that what you think? You think you can just pretend everything is fine while I'm drowning in this misery? Lila, I don't want to fight with you, I said, attempting to defuse the situation. I want to celebrate my baby. Can you at least try to respect that? You're not getting it, are you? She snapped, brushing away the tears that threatened to spill. You're the cause of all this. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be in this position. Enough, Karen interjected, stepping forward to stand between us. Lila, this is your sister's special day. You need to stop this nonsense right now. Her voice was firm but laced with concern. Lila glanced between our mother and Tom, her expression softening slightly. "I can't just let him do this to me," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I need him." "Do you really?" Tom asked, his expression softened, yet still resolute. "You've pushed me away for so long. This isn't love, it's control." As I stood there, watching the confrontation unfold, I felt a knot of anxiety in my stomach. I was torn between wanting to protect my sister and recognizing the toxicity she had brought into our lives. The guests were shifting awkwardly, and I could hear murmurs of concern among them. "Sarah, could you?" I started, but she cut me off. "I'll handle it," she said, stepping forward with a determined look. "Lila, I know you're upset, but let's step outside for a moment, okay? We can talk this through." "Talk it through? What's there to talk about?" Lila shot back, but Sarah didn't flinch. She reached out and took Lila's arm gently, guiding her toward the exit. As they walked out, a wave of tension washed over the room. The guests began to murmur amongst themselves, casting sideways glances at me. "Is everything okay?" one of my friends asked, concern etched on her face. "I don't know," I replied, shaking my head. "I thought today would be about joy, and now it feels like a disaster." Jake stepped up beside me, placing a comforting hand on my back. "You did everything you could. It's not your fault Lila chose to act like this." "But she's my sister," I said, biting my lip to hold back tears. "I don't want this for her. I want us to be a family, to celebrate together." "I know," Jake replied softly. "But you can't change her behavior. She has to want help herself." As I glanced toward the exit where Sarah and Lila had disappeared, my thoughts raced. I couldn't help but feel a twinge of fear about what Lila might say to Sarah. Would she twist the narrative? Would she play the victim to everyone's sympathy? I felt helpless, knowing that no matter what I did, Lila's actions were beyond my control. Moments later, Sarah returned, her expression serious but calm. "She's upset but she's okay," she assured me. "I think she just needs some space to process everything." I sighed in relief. "Thank you for stepping in. I didn't know how to handle it." "Just remember, she's going through a lot," Sarah said. "But you have your own family to think about now. Your baby is the priority." "You're right," I said, taking a deep breath. "I need to focus on the joy of today. It's just hard to shake off the negativity." As I turned back to the guests, I tried to put on a brave face. "All right, everyone, who's ready for some more games?" I called out, hoping to steer the atmosphere back to something cheerful. A few guests cheered, and I felt a flicker of hope. But just as we settled into a new game, I noticed Lila storming back into the room, her eyes blazing with fury. "Are you all really going to sit here and let her play the victim?" she shouted, her voice echoing against the walls. "Lila, please," I said, desperation creeping into my tone. "This isn't the time or place." She ignored me, turning her attention to the guests. "You all think she's the perfect little angel, don't you? But you have no idea what she's really like. Always the center of attention, always looking for sympathy." The room was silent, every eye now fixed on her. I felt my face flush with embarrassment, anger boiling in my chest. "Lila, stop it, you're making a scene. Why don't you tell them the truth?" she said, her voice rising. "Tell them about the times you've belittled me or how you always took the spotlight. You think just because you're pregnant, you're above everything? I've never belittled you, Lila," I exclaimed, my voice shaky but resolute. "I've always supported you. I've been there for you through everything." "Yeah, right," she scoffed. "You just want everyone to think you're a saint while I'm the bad sister." "Lila, this isn't about being a good or bad sister," I argued. "This is about being family. You need to stop this." Just then, Tom stepped forward again, his face pale but determined. "Lila, you need to listen to yourself. This is not the person I married. You're spiraling, and I want to help you, but you need to let go of this anger." She turned to him, her expression shifting from rage to vulnerability. "You don't understand. I can't lose you. I'm not trying to make you lose me, but I can't stay in a relationship where I'm constantly worried about your next outburst," he said gently. "You need to work on yourself." Lila opened her mouth to respond, but the words caught in her throat. For a moment, silence enveloped the room as everyone waited for her next move. Her facade cracked, and I saw the fear and desperation behind her anger. "Lila," I said softly, taking a step closer. "I don't want to fight. I want to help you. Can we talk about this? Just you and me?" Her eyes darted around the room, searching for support, but I could see the storm within her calming just slightly. "You really think I need help?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Yes, I do," I replied, feeling my heart ache for her. "We're sisters, and I love you. But this jealousy and anger aren't going to get you anywhere. You deserve to be happy, too. As the tension in the room hung like a fragile thread, Lila finally let out a shaky breath. Maybe you're right, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Tom nodded, his expression softening. I'll support you, but you need to make the effort, Lila. We can get through this, but you have to want it. I do want it, she murmured, tears spilling down her cheeks. I don't know how. As I stepped closer, I pulled her into a hug, feeling her body shake with sobs. We'll figure it out together, I promised, my own heart aching at the pain she had carried alone for so long. The guests, still uncertain, began to shift back into a more supportive stance, some even offering gentle words of encouragement. We're here for you, Lila, one of my friends said, a soft smile on her face. For the first time, Lila looked up, her expression a mix of vulnerability and hope. Thank you, everyone. I'm sorry for the scene. I just let my emotions take control. I pulled back from the embrace, looking into her eyes. It's okay, we can work on this. You're not alone anymore. As the atmosphere began to shift back toward positivity, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. We had a long way to go, but for the first time in a while, I felt a glimmer of hope for my sister. It wasn't just about the baby shower anymore, it was about healing and rebuilding our relationship. Now, how about we cut that cake? I suggested, attempting to lighten the mood. Lila nodded, a small smile breaking through her tears. Yeah, let's do that. And as we gathered around the cake, surrounded by friends and family, I realized that today, despite the chaos, had the potential to be a turning point. A moment where healing began, and we could all move forward together. As I stood in front of the cake, I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the day's events still lingering but slightly lighter. I glanced around at the faces of our friends and family, their expressions filled with understanding and support. It felt as if everyone was collectively holding their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. All right, everyone, I said, trying to channel the excitement back into the room. Let's cut this cake and celebrate the little one. I lifted the knife and cut through the soft, creamy frosting, the aroma of vanilla filling the air. As I turned to Lila, I found her watching me with a mixture of admiration and regret. Do you want to help me? I asked, holding out the knife. A flicker of surprise crossed her face, but then she stepped forward, a tentative smile breaking through her tears. Yeah, I'd like that, she replied softly. Together, we sliced through the cake, working side by side. As we served slices to the guests, I noticed the atmosphere beginning to lighten, laughter trickling back into the conversations. This cake is amazing, one of my friends exclaimed, taking a bite. Did you make this yourself? No, it was a bakery I found online, I said, a laugh escaping me. But I might have to try baking my own next time if this whole parenting thing works out. Lila chuckled, the sound warm and genuine. You, bake? Now that's a reality I can't imagine. Hey, I'm going to surprise you all, I replied, laughing along with her. The moment felt refreshing, and I savored it like the sweetness of the cake. As we continued to serve, I felt a sense of unity growing among us. Once everyone had a slice, I took a moment to pause and raise my glass. I'd like to make a toast, I called out, the room quieting down again. To new beginnings, to family, and to supporting one another through thick and thin. To family, the guests echoed, their glasses clinking together in unison. Lila stood beside me, her expression softer now, a flicker of hope shining in her eyes. After the toast, we all dug into our cake, savoring the sweetness and sharing laughter as the games resumed. As I glanced over at Lila, I caught her in a moment of genuine enjoyment, chatting with Sarah about baby names. It was a relief to see her smile, a sight I had missed for so long. Yet, even amidst the laughter, I couldn't shake the feeling that we had only scratched the surface. The earlier confrontation still weighed heavily on my mind, and I knew we needed to talk more about everything that had happened. Later, as the games wound down and people began to mingle, I pulled Lila aside to a quieter corner of the room. Can we talk for a minute? I asked, my voice soft but steady. Sure, she replied, a hint of apprehension in her tone. I want to check in with you. I know today has been a lot, and I don't want to ignore what happened, I said gently, my heart aching for her. She nodded, her gaze flickering down to the floor. Yeah, it's been intense, she admitted. I didn't mean to blow up like that. I get that, but you have to understand how it affected everyone, I said, trying to keep my tone calm. It's okay to feel angry, but you need to find healthier ways to express it. I know, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. I've just felt so alone, and it seemed like you were living this perfect life. It's been hard to watch. Lila, I promise you, my life isn't perfect. I have my struggles too, I said, reaching out to gently touch her arm. I want us to support each other through this. I don't want to be in competition. You're my sister, and I care about you. She looked up, tears shimmering in her eyes. I've always felt like I was in your shadow. Ever since we were kids, you were always the star, and I was just me. That's not true, I insisted, my heart breaking for her. I never wanted you to feel that way. You have your own strengths and talents that I admire so much. Remember when you helped organize that charity event? It was amazing. Lila's lips curled into a small smile, but it quickly faded. I just wanted to be noticed, to be appreciated. And then I got married, and I thought things would change. But they didn't. Lila, marriage can be tough, I said, trying to relate. It's not just about the spotlight, it's about partnership. If you're feeling neglected or hurt, you need to communicate that with Tom. She bit her lip, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I didn't know how to communicate it. I thought he would just understand, but instead, I pushed him away. Relationships take work, and it's okay to admit when things aren't perfect, I reassured her. You have to be honest about your feelings, not just with him but with yourself too. You can't keep bottling things up. I know, she replied, her voice thick with emotion. I'm just scared. What if I can't change? What if it's too late? It's never too late, I said firmly. You're taking the first step by acknowledging what's wrong. That's the hardest part. Healing takes time, but you have to be willing to put in the effort. I want to try, she said, her voice trembling. I really do. And you won't have to do it alone, I promised. I'll be here every step of the way. We can even go to counseling together if you'd like. I've heard it can really help. Lila nodded slowly, her expression thoughtful. I'd like that. I just want to feel better and be a better sister, a better person. You are already a good person, Lila, I said, squeezing her hand. We just need to work on healing together. We stood in silence for a moment, the noise of the party fading into the background. I felt a sense of relief wash over me, knowing we were finally taking steps toward understanding and forgiveness. As we rejoined the party, I noticed Tom watching us from across the room. His expression was serious, but there was a glimmer of hope in his eyes. He approached us, a mixture of determination and concern etched across his face. Hey, he said softly, glancing between Lila and me. I just wanted to say, I'm proud of you for talking things through. I hope this is a step toward healing. Thank you, Lila said, her voice steady. I'm really going to try to make things right. Tom nodded, a small smile breaking through his previously tense expression. That's all I ask. I just want us to communicate better. I want that too, she replied, her voice filled with sincerity. I want our relationship to be strong again. The three of us stood together, a small island of understanding amidst the chaos of the party. I felt a sense of camaraderie developing, a shared commitment to moving forward together as a family. As the evening wore on, laughter and joy returned to the celebration. Guests chatted and played games, the earlier tension dissipating like morning mist. I caught snippets of laughter, the sound of friends enjoying themselves, and it filled my heart with warmth. Later, as the party began to wind down, I found myself surrounded by friends, sharing stories and laughter. You really handled that well, Sarah said, nudging my shoulder playfully. I don't know how you kept your cool. I wasn't sure if I was going to lose it, I admitted, laughing nervously. But it felt good to finally stand my ground and be there for Lila. Sometimes it takes a big moment like that to spark change, she said thoughtfully. I think you've planted the seeds for healing, and it's up to you both to nurture it. As the last guests began to filter out, Lila approached me, her expression earnest. Thank you for everything today, she said, her voice soft. I know I've been a handful, but I'm going to work on this. I believe you, I replied, pulling her into a warm embrace. Just take it one step at a time. As we hugged, I felt a sense of hope blossoming within me. Today had been about more than just a baby shower, it had been a catalyst for healing. We were learning to communicate, to be vulnerable, and to rebuild our bond as sisters. Later, as Jake and I began to clean up, he turned to me with a smile. I'm proud of you, you know. You handled everything with so much grace. Thanks, babe, I said, feeling the warmth of his words. It wasn't easy, but I think it was necessary. I can see the difference in Lila already, he said, glancing toward her, who was now chatting amicably with Tom. Maybe this is the turning point she needed. Let's hope so, I replied, a smile tugging at my lips. Family is everything, and I want to make sure we're all okay." As the last of the guests departed, I felt a sense of closure settling over the day. We had faced the storm, weathered the chaos, and emerged stronger on the other side. And as I looked around, at the remnants of the celebration, I knew that this was just the beginning. The road ahead would be filled with challenges, but we were ready to confront them together, hand in hand. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace enveloping me, ready to embrace whatever the future held. As the sun set outside, casting a warm golden glow over our home, I turned to Jake, my heart brimming with gratitude. "I think we're going to be okay." "We will be," he replied, wrapping his arms around me. "And no matter what, we'll face it together." With that promise lingering in the air, I allowed myself to dream of brighter days ahead, filled with laughter, love, and the joy of family. The weeks following the baby shower passed in a blur of preparation and anticipation. As I neared the end of my pregnancy, my focus shifted entirely to the new life that would soon join our family. Yet, amidst the excitement, I couldn't ignore the growing bond between Lila and me, which was slowly transforming from a tangled mess of jealousy and resentment into something much more beautiful and supportive. "Are you ready for this?" Sarah asked one afternoon as we sat together in my living room, surrounded by an array of baby gifts and decorations. I smiled, feeling a mix of excitement and anxiety. "I think so, or at least I hope so," I replied, glancing around at the pastel colors and plush toys that filled the space. "It's hard to believe that in just a few weeks, we'll have a baby in our lives." "You'll be amazing," she said, her eyes sparkling with encouragement. "And I'll be here to help with everything. We've got a village, remember?" Just then, the doorbell rang, and I walked over to answer it. To my surprise, it was Lila, standing on the doorstep with a bright smile and an oversized box in her arms. "I brought you something," she exclaimed, her eyes shining with excitement. "What is it?" I asked, my curiosity piqued. "Open it," she insisted, bouncing on her heels like a child. I stepped aside and let her in, setting the box down on the living room floor. With a quick motion, Lila opened the box to reveal a collection of beautifully knitted baby clothes, each piece lovingly crafted in shades of blue, pink, and yellow. My heart swelled at the sight. "Lila, these are incredible. Did you knit all of these?" She nodded proudly, a hint of shyness creeping into her expression. "I wanted to do something special for you and the baby. I thought maybe we could make new memories together, you know? As sisters." I felt a wave of emotion wash over me. "Thank you. This means so much to me," I said, pulling her into a hug. "You're really stepping up." "I'm trying," she said softly, her voice slightly muffled in my shoulder. "I know I've made mistakes, but I'm ready to make things right." "I know you are," I replied, pulling back to look into her eyes. "And I'm so proud of you. It takes a lot of courage to admit when you're wrong and to want to change." As we began sorting through the clothes, Lila continued to share her journey. "Tom and I have been going to couples therapy, and it's been eye-opening," she said, her face lighting up with enthusiasm. "We're learning how to communicate better and how to support each other." "That's fantastic," I exclaimed, genuinely thrilled for her. "I can see how much you care about your relationship." "Yeah, I want to be a better partner and a better sister," she said earnestly. "I don't want to be that person anymore, the one who lashes out and makes things harder for everyone." "You're already on the right path," I encouraged her. "Just keep taking those steps forward." Just then, the door opened, and Jake walked in, his arms laden with groceries. "Hey, everyone, what's all this?" he asked, peering into the box. "Lila brought some amazing baby clothes," I said, unable to contain my excitement. "Look at this one." Jake crouched down beside us, inspecting the tiny garments. "Wow, these are adorable. You've got some serious talent, Lila," he complimented her, making her blush. "Thank you. I'm just trying to contribute in any way I can," she replied, her voice filled with genuine pride. After a while, we decided to take a break from sorting and headed to the kitchen to prepare lunch together. As we worked side by side, the atmosphere was filled with laughter and camaraderie, something I had longed for in our relationship. "Do you remember that time we tried to make cookies, and we accidentally added salt instead of sugar?" Lila asked, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Oh my gosh, yes. I still can't believe we served those to Mom and Dad," I laughed, recalling the memory. "They pretended to enjoy them while secretly trying to hide their disgust." "Right, and then we had to do the dishes as punishment," she said, grinning. "But it was worth it for that moment of chaos." "That's what it's all about," I said, smiling. "Making memories, even the ridiculous ones." As we finished preparing lunch, I felt a sense of ease settling over the kitchen. It was as if the tension between us had melted away, replaced by a newfound connection built on love, laughter, and mutual respect. After lunch, we gathered in the living room again, where Sarah joined us. "What's the plan for the nursery?" she asked, glancing around at the baby items scattered about. "We're still working on it, but we're hoping to have it ready before the baby arrives," I replied. "Lila was just telling me about some great ideas she has for the decor." "Oh, really?" Sarah said, leaning forward. "I'd love to hear them." Lila's eyes lit up, and she eagerly began sharing her vision for the nursery. "I was thinking soft pastels, maybe a jungle theme? Lots of cute animals and vibrant colors," she said animatedly. "And I can help you paint if you want." "Absolutely, that would be so much fun," I replied, my excitement building. "I'd love for you to be part of the process." "Count me in," she said with a grin. "This is going to be our baby, and I want to be involved every step of the way." As we discussed the nursery, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for my sister. This was a different Lila than the one I had known in recent years. This was someone ready to embrace her role as an aunt, someone willing to learn and grow. That evening, after Lila had gone home, I sat with Jake on the couch, reflecting on the day. "Today felt special," I said, leaning against him. "I can't believe how much has changed between Lila and me in such a short time." "It's amazing what a little vulnerability can do," he replied, wrapping his arm around my shoulders. "You both have a long way to go, but this is definitely a great start." "I know," I said thoughtfully. "I'm just grateful she's trying. I want our kids to grow up knowing they have a strong family bond." "They will," Jake assured me. "You're laying the groundwork now, and it's going to pay off. Just keep communicating and supporting each other." As I settled into his embrace, I felt a wave of contentment wash over me. The past few months had been tumultuous, but they had also sparked a transformative journey for Lila and me. We were on the brink of a new chapter, one filled with love, understanding, and the promise of family. A few days later, the baby shower was a distant memory, and we were fully immersed in preparations for the baby. As my due date approached, Lila became an essential part of the process, helping me organize the nursery and offering her support during the final stretch of my pregnancy. One evening, as we sat together folding tiny clothes, I glanced over at her and smiled. "I can't believe how far we've come." "Me neither," she replied, her face softening. "I'm so glad we've started rebuilding our relationship. I've missed this, having you as my sister and being able to share these moments together." "Me too," I said, feeling the warmth of her words resonate in my heart. "I've realized that we're stronger together, and I want to make sure we stay connected." "I promise I'll do my best," she said earnestly. "I want to be the aunt who's always there for the little one, just like you've been there for me." The day finally arrived when I went into labor. Jake and I rushed to the hospital, the excitement and nerves coursing through us. Lila was there, waiting anxiously in the waiting room, ready to support me through the journey. Hours later, after what felt like an eternity, I held my baby in my arms for the first time, a beautiful little girl with bright eyes and tiny fingers. Tears of joy streamed down my face as I looked at her, overwhelmed with love. Lila rushed into the room, her expression a mix of awe and adoration. "Oh my gosh, she's perfect," she exclaimed, her voice filled with emotion. "She is, isn't she?" I said, smiling through my tears. "I can't believe she's finally here." Lila stepped closer, her eyes shining. "Can I hold her?" "Of course," I said, gently passing the baby into her arms. "Welcome to the family, little one." As Lila cradled the baby, I watched her expression transform, filled with tenderness and affection. In that moment, I knew that our journey toward healing and forgiveness had only just begun. Together, we would navigate the challenges and joys of family, hand in hand, forever bonded by our love for each other and our newest member. "I'm going to be the best aunt ever," Lila promised, her voice thick with emotion. "I know you will," I replied, feeling a rush of gratitude for the sister I had always wanted by my side. "We're going to create so many memories together." As we shared this intimate moment, I felt the weight of the past lift off my shoulders, replaced by the bright light of hope and possibility. We were ready to embrace the future as a family, and I knew that whatever came our way, we would face it together. And as I watched Lila gaze down at my daughter, I knew that this was just the beginning of a beautiful journey filled with love, laughter, and the promise of a new beginning.